All right, so we have our model all broken into pieces, as we talked about in class. And what we need to do now is get it into ZBrush so we can do some, maybe tedious to you, but this is actually what art is about. So we'll take a look at this just to explain what we did before, make sure we know these are all separate blocks. This is, maybe not the way I would do it because this is probably not a hero object, but we're going to treat this like it's a hero object. And a hero object gets a ton of attention and a ton of detail put into it. So we want to make sure that we do that same thing. Now this one actually looks like it isn't done for some reason. Let's check this one. Yeah, and they should be all blocked off. Okay. We'll close that one. We'll see what this one's like. Yep. Let's make sure. Yeah. Okay. So this one needs to be done real quick. I'll be right back. Actually, I'll just do it right here, right now. So I'm going to isolate unselected to show you how easy this is to do. This one's got some extra verts in them, so I'm going to go ahead and just edges real quick, get rid of these edges. I'm going to double click on them, double click on them, double click on them, double click on them, then push Control and backspace, and it just gets rid of the verts and everything involved with them. I'm going to come to my poly mode, and I'm going to grab this one. I'm basically just grabbing every other one real quick. The way that they would do this for a well, probably, which isn't a hero object, is we would usually make what's called the trim sheet. And that's something we'll go over next semester. But for now, we're going to do it this way. So all we need to do is say detach. And then we're going to make sure it's the same element because we want to keep them the same element for ZBrush purposes. And if we look at them now, again, they have holes in them. So we want to fix that. How do we fix that? We go to 3. So we can select the border and just grab all the borders and say cap. Oops, that's not what I meant. And say cap. And now we come back to here and we can check, and we should have caps on every border. So we do. So that said, we are good to go. All right, let's open that other ones back out, pull them back out here, and isolation. So I have these with separate pieces, these with separate pieces, this with separate piece. I'm going to hold off on doing the bucket for right now, the bucket and the spline. We can come back and grab those another time. So we're just going to say hide those for now, just so they don't get in the way. Okay, so we have all of these are separate pieces, separate sub-elements to them. And then if we look at this one, it's got the same thing, right? It's got a few separate pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and that's, I think it. So like 9 or 10 of them. Seems like an odd number, shouldn't work, so probably 10. And then this one has some sub-objects too. Well, this one I broke down. So it's got this is one piece, and this is one piece, and then it has this thing as another piece. I'm not really going to do much with this, but I wanted to separate it out so I could keep that hard metal edge stuff. Okay, and then I have a couple other small pieces. So basically what we're going to do at this point, and then these, of course, are all still, let me collapse them here. These are all still separate pieces. They're all closed off, and they're not perfect, and that's fine. We aren't looking from that angle. We're doing a simple portfolio kind of look just to get you through some of the steps in ZBrush we haven't gotten into. So, okay, so we're going to take all of these objects, select them all. We're going to go to File. We're going to go to Export, Selected, and then we're going to go put them in, let's say, week 14, if this is the right one. No, it's not. Run class real quick. Go to there, go to week 14, and say, we'll just overwrite this well here. I had to do a couple tests to make sure I'm not nuts. Well, more nuts than we all know. Okay, so they all exported out. And you know what? And I will tell you, there's like 100 pieces in here. So, and you're going to be touching them all individually. So I'm going to open up ZBrush real quick, and let's talk about some stuff inside of ZBrush before we input that in here. So when you do work inside of a program, or when you are an artist, your job is to make pretty stuff. And the more resolution we get, the more pretty stuff we can make. So this is an example of what I'm talking about here. This has several pieces in it. I think it's like 40 or something like that, or it was. I think I may have cut back a little bit. And each of these stones were modeled separately, and I did some sculpting on them. I duplicated them and I sculpted some more. Some of them were less important because they're in the back, and then I tried to do some sculpting to pull the pieces back together. And so my point being that it was a good few hours of modeling just to get to this. And that's not even counting this stuff inside of here. This stuff inside of here was quite a bit more time. My point is that we do a lot of modeling. Even if there's shortcuts, we don't always look for shortcuts. Sometimes it comes back to the artistry. And that's kind of what I'm going to go over with ours right now. We don't do enough of the artistry stuff in our classes right now with the short amount of time we have. So I want to make sure we get some time and we talk about being an artist and being more than just finding solutions with quick solutions for everything, because it's got to come back to doing the artwork, and there's no way around it. It's like unwrapping. Unwrapping has to be done. We all hate it. There's gonna be new tricks and trades every few years. They may work perfectly, they may not, but really, if you have time to look into that while you're working on a project, then what I should say is you don't usually have time to look at that when you're working on a project, so usually piling through, and until you get a break, you don't look at it, or unless somebody who's tested it out and shows it to you, you don't have time to do it. You don't really have time in a production schedule to go research everything and try and get better or new different ways. So in a lot of cases, we stick with what we know, and part of that, what we know, is we need to know how to sculpt just like we would inside of anything else. So that's kind of what we're going to do in this case. We're going to do a lot simpler version of it, but the 100 pieces that we're going to bring in here, you're going to touch. You need to get in there and touch them, and I'm making it as simple as possible for you to do because we're using stylized art and we're doing that stylized look. Oh, there's one more thing actually I forgot to do inside of ZBrush or inside of Max. So let me go back into Max real quick. And one thing I need to do is for this one, I need to come into the top here, and then I need to make a cylinder real quick. And I could have done this later, but I just want to do it while I think of it. And pull it, not a cylinder, my bad. We're going to make a tube again. Come out real quick. And I should have done it this way so I can see what I was looking at. I want it inside of here. I just want a cylinder inside of here. I don't need to break it apart or anything. I just need a cylinder. And what this is for is so when we Dynamesh stuff, we'll get some filling stuff inside of here. So we'll do this, drag it up, and then go. Okay, so I'm taking a look at it, see where we are. Okay, so it's right here. We don't need that many subdivisions even. We're going to go ahead and do no subdivisions. We're going to scale this not that way, but we're going to scale it up. So basically we want some place that will be inside of here. And we probably want this a little bit thicker. Okay, and we'll change this to 100. That's probably too much there, right? So we'll just do 95, something like that. Let's do 97. And then let's do 90. No, let's do 85. Okay. We just want something inside of here. And we may want it in all of them, but this is the one that's going to be the most prevalent. And then I probably want to bring this up to something like 80. So it's just under there. Okay. Then I'm going to come back to this piece that has all those separate pieces in it. I'm going to attach this as a separate piece too. I'm just going to click on it. Now I have them all as one piece. I'm going to end isolation. I'm going to grab, I might as well make this non-transparent. I'm going to export it again. So all I did is go to File, Export Selected. Well, save, yes. Okay. So back to ZBrush. So inside of ZBrush, we're going to take one of these objects. We're going to make sure it's a Polymesh 3D. And then we're going to come over to our Z plugin and we're going to say import. And we're going to go to well, and we're going to say open. And it will build all these pieces for you. And it didn't make 100 pieces in here, as you've noticed. That's a good thing. We can organize them. I'll put the wood up here a little bit higher. We can do wheel. We'll put it by the wood. We'll do well proper. We'll do the crankshaft up here. We'll do wheel caps. Those are the edge of the crankshaft, so we'll put it right there. Just kind of organizing what I had, and if you notice, since I named everything, it worked great. So this is the biggest piece. This is the most work you're going to probably end up doing in all these pieces. So we'll take this and drag it down below that. And this goes actually above it. There. So I've got all these pieces, and right now, if I just hide the ones I want to work on, so I can just say like solo, right? And really, I can go up and down in the arrows like this, and I can move them any way I want. So I'm going to work on this one. If we take a look at it in here, we can see that it's broken up into several pieces, and we've got it all set up for us to go. So before we get started though, I want to talk about getting a few brushes. First one you want to get is right here, and I'll put this in the link. It's Orb Brush Pack. It's free. You just have to go to here, or you can look up Orb Brush Pack and get it. It's a bunch of really cool brushes. Really the ones that we want though are this one, which is like a rock detail one, and then this one. And we can even put some of these other things in there, but I'm trying to do it fast so we don't really have that kind of time, but you're welcome to go back and do the work on your own. Okay, so after I download those brushes, then what? Well, I just have to go to here and say load brush, go find wherever that brush is, and in my case it is here, or brushes, and I just pick the brush I want. I'll just pick cracks, just because I don't have that in there yet. And I'll say open, and now that brush is right there. So there's another brush, there's a couple more brushes that I'll include with the homework that are free too. They're from GRO, another guy who does really cool stuff. But that's what we're going to do, and you'll see me and I'll tell you which brushes we're using. We're going to be using the Orb Noise Brush, we're going to use the Orb Rock Detail Brush and this Rock Noise Brush, and then we're going to use the JRO Grunge Brush. And those are really the only outside of standard brushes we're going to use. There's other brushes that I generally use, like when I sculpted that other thing, but for this one, that's not what we're going to do. We're really just going to use B, T, and then we're going to go Trim Dynamic. Okay, that's the big one we're going to use. And you look, I already have a shortcut to it. So when you see me jumping back and forth, that's why. And I also put this in there. You don't necessarily need to have that. So this should be what it looks like when you bring it out. Okay, so now I've got that. And if I open up brushes, you can see that I've got all those other brushes in here. Some of them I'm not using, but we'll at least have them. I was looking for the right brushes. So what we're going to do is take a look at this object. And right now, we can't really work on it because it's all, you know, one big object, right? So what do? Well, what we're going to do is we are going to do this button right here, which is auto groups, which is actually over here in the polygroups selection area, and then you're going to say auto groups and click that button. And notice how they all turn different colors. That means they're all separate polygroups, and the reason that we did that is this keeps everything really simple. So we've talked about doing this and, you know, selecting parts of the object. Well, what we can do when there are groups like this, even though they're the same object, and you can see that they're all in the same layer, I'm still working in the same layer, is I can push Control and Shift, and this is a polygroup brush, or this is a hide and select brush, but this is made for polygroups. So if I click Control and Shift, and then I click on this green one, or this one right here, it'll hide. Here, let me do that again, because apparently that's one of the other things. Let me divide this up first here. So they're all polygrouped out.